Hey, it's Lex and Stacy, 3somepodcast 133. Stacy, what is up?
Hey, Lex, how are you?
I am good.
Good.
I am glad to be back doing the 3some podcast with you, my dear. It's first couple episodes have gone famously. They feel good.
Yeah.
We told you in the first episode back this year, that it was kind of Funk City for a lot of reasons, technologically, personal lives, all that stuff. So beautiful thing about a podcast is you can kind of like hit the pause button and just say, hey, the conditions aren't right for me to do a broadcast. Not like me when I went through my divorce, and had to show up here every day with a smile on my face. That was difficult.
No, because I obviously didn't get to hear that. Was it discussed openly?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was...
See, I guess I would, especially because I know how everyone else in the room is, I would find that very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of came out a little at a time. It's not like I had it rehearsed and was going to let everybody know and so on and so forth. It was just kind of one of those things where situationally things... came out and so on and so forth. So I would decide or not decide to elaborate further, and it ended up being just fine, really.
Good.
As far as that goes, I think I protected the brand, and at the same time, kind of informed people, what went down, and it's like it happens to marriages. It's just the way it is, and this one came with a special set of circumstances that I'm not prepared to, give my take on, because that's exactly what it is. Some people may look at it differently. I don't, but at the same time, in fairness, I just felt giving my side of things would be unfair, since I have a microphone.
True.
And
it's good that you realize that.
Yeah. So I just, some things I just left up for people's conjecture. Sometimes I was able to craft it so they understood kind of the environment I was in.
Fortunate, I felt that it happened right around the same time that Terry had some issues. And I think that people might have assumed that they were related.
Yeah, nothing was related. I mean, everything catastrophically blew up at once. The Bain acquisition of Clear Channel caused a lot of problems for not just us, but a lot of radio shows. So we had to go into business for ourselves. A couple people on the show saw that as the demise of the show and hauled ass. And those of us who stuck around persevered and went on to still be here today kicking ass. So it was just a very difficult last 5 years, but I am in a really good place right now.
Good.
I have a daughter who's well-adjusted, works hard, has her own place, pays her own car payment, is going to work every day, seems, ambitious and hungry to make it in the world. I couldn't be more proud of her if I tried.
And she doesn't murder hobos that we know of.
As far as we know, she doesn't.
Yes.
Although she has a lot of attributes of my mother, and which I didn't realize until my sister came to town to visit when Sam was like 16 or 17, and she goes, Jesus Christ, she's like a fucking mini-me of our mom. I'm like, really? The only thing I really noticed was the grit teeth thing when she gets pissed off. Outside of that, she goes, oh no, she goes, it's like watching a doll with mom inside it.
Well, that's not creepy at all.
And I was like, yeah. I said, maybe I'm just too close to it to see that. She goes, maybe so, but she's like, wow, mind blown. I'm like, okay, well. So, that being one of the finest persons I've ever met, my mother, who, did things I didn't even realize in her life for other people till her funeral, where people just showed up and came up and spoke about, Lex and Joette, your mom took me to rehab instead of firing me and drove me down personally, put me in there. Because of her, I have a life today. I have my kids back. I have a family. I was like, oh my God,
That's great.
My mom got robbed at gunpoint in the parking lot of her nursing home, and there were two other ladies
where she
there.
worked.
Yeah, where she worked. And the guy goes, "Give me your fucking purse." And she's like, "No." And the other two ladies are like, give him your purse." She's like, "No, I'm not giving him my purse." And it's like, needless to say, they all didn't speak again anytime soon.
Life and death situations will do that.
And of course, your mom wants you to have her back and everything, but she's explaining this whole thing to me, and I'm like, "Mom, it's just a fucking purse. You can get all that shit back." She goes, "I'm not going down to the DMV and the fucking Social Security and all that shit." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, you're not, because you may have a bullet hole in your head." And you compromise two other lives. You can understand why they're pissed, right? She's like, "No, I'm the only one who stood up to these assholes." I'm like, you shouldn't have.
Oh, Mom.
It's not like they took your, J. Paul Getty fortune or anything. You have like $70 on you. You idiot. But she was just that kind of very strong woman. But did all these people are just saying things about her. What a great boss she was. Very demanding but very fair and rewarding. And I was just like, wow. She never came home and patted herself on the back and stuff like that. I was just blown away. It was really cool.
Well, good. I'm glad you got that.
And I see some of her qualities in Samantha, but I see a lot of mine, a lot of Sandy's, a lot of people's qualities in her. So, but
Terry's. Wait, huh?
Terry's.
Sandy, what did you do?
Yeah.
That's not awkward at all.
Yeah, I would bet the ranch that would never happen. Little friction between those two, always.
It was hot sexual tension that you weren't picking up on, Lex.
Yeah, whatever. I guess you have to care to do that. But seriously, it's like I've always been that guy. It's like, hey, just do what you want. I can't stop you, and I'm not going to end up at a therapist just because you made some horrible decision. Okay, it wasn't my fucking fault. So
what you're saying is having sex with Terry James would be a horrible decision.
For him and her, yes, that would be a devastatingly horrible decision for both of them. For one thing, it's just two people that in some ways, I mean Terry, the way Sandy was very good at seeing bullshit in people. Terry's good at that. They had a lot of similar qualities that.
Were you married to Sandy before you met Terry?
Well, I mean, I was with Sandy 10 years before we got married. So yeah, I knew her way before him. Okay. And, but he and I actually got married like 2 months apart, to our wives.
Not to each other. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I know some would argue though.
What do you mean?
You two are an old married couple.
Oh, no. I mean, it is like a marriage. It really is. I mean, it's like I'd take a bullet for him, no doubt. It's like, I can call him a fucking asshole or douche head or whatever, but I won't let somebody else do it, or I won't, if he falls under attack, I totally got his back, and he does the same. And right. and through some pretty dark periods in my life, he was 150% there. Was very understanding, very cool. I love him for it. I really do. We definitely working together as long as we have that classic partner love-hate relationship. But at the end of the day, I love the guy. I really do. We have managed to look past each other's things that annoy the fuck out of us about each other, and we have always been on the same page in the direction of the show and things we need to do with it, and so on and so forth. So it's still as strong as a business relationship as it was in the beginning, which a lot of people can't say that.
Right.
So it's just a weird relationship. That's all it is. It's a business relationship, but it's a friendship too. It started as a friendship and then became a business relationship and a friendship. And, in the end, one day it won't be a business relationship anymore, and it'll go back to being a friendship. And I'm pretty sure it'll be as good as it was in the beginning.
Good.
So
that's a good thing.
So it's nice. Yeah, I just really have, that's the most accurate thing I can say about it.
Well, it's a lovely sentiment.
I really don't know too many partnerships that have lasted as long as ours have, where the people still speak and care about each other. And
I know, look at Van Halen.
Yeah, exactly. It's just mind-boggling to me how well we have made decisions and negotiated our way through, some pretty tough things that, some of which were our doing, but most of which weren't.
Right.
And we're still here. We're still kicking ass and feel good about things. So there you go.
Well, I'm good. I'm glad. I'm glad for you.
You just it's weird because we just had our 25th anniversary.
Was there a party? Did you have clowns?
No, here's kind of the thing, and it pisses me off because we're not athletes, but people like half people are very glad you're still here and think you're everything you ever were, and then other people just think you should have a shelf life and go away. Right. And we talk with our minds and our mouths. It doesn't get tired. It's not like Jerry Rice where he was 45 years old and still wanted to play, but his 40 time was 7 seconds or 7/10 of a seconds slower than when he was a rookie. It's not like that. It's you're just talking here, and we're still adolescents, and we're still try to be adult about some things, but we're still schmucks about others. And we're always gonna be. We're just to us, we're still the same guys we were all along. Still think the same way, still have the same values, still, yet now with social media and everything, you have people that take shots at you every now and again,
There's always been that.
Yeah, but,
because email before that.
I try to be ahead of it all, and above it and everything, but every once in a while, when somebody takes a shot at you and you're like, look at their picture, you just can't help yourself.
You mean like today on Twitter, Lex?
Oh, you saw the Santa Claus one?
Oh, no, yeah. I just saw you getting just ragged on about the Jaguars.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had a lot to do with bringing the Jaguars to Jacksonville, and some of these douche nozzles have forgotten that, that we put lots of station labor and time and effort, and we're closely working with the group trying to bring the Jaguars to town, doing things for them, anytime they asked, and did so much they invited us to the announcement of the team and all that stuff. I mean, we gave away millions in airtime for them, hoping they would get the team. We've really not said much about it since, but, people were talking about the game yesterday, and, of course, I grew up a Steelers fan. That's what I am,
Right.
That's what I'm always going to be. But if it can't be the Steelers, it's cool. I wanted the Jags to win, obviously, of course. And some people who are younger and don't know the history get bent by that. Oh, now you're a Jags fan. And this guy, you fucking has been.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So I looked at the picture and I went, look, don't get pissed at me because little kids aren't sitting on your lap at the mall anymore, okay?
Like you're Roy Moore.
And then I thought to myself, I'm just going to block him.
Isn't that, that is something I have gotten more used to.
Yeah.
I used to never, ever, ever want to do that because I felt like I was losing. And now it's like,
No, you're actually not losing. It's just not something you have to. Once it gets to name calling, that's when it has to happen. Because I had a brilliant troll battle with a guy in Fargo the other day, and he and I went back and forth, and he's like, "I'm in your head. You have 40,000 followers, and little old me, and Minnesota owns your fucking ass." And I'm like, "No," I said, #magnanimous. It's me talking to the little people and sharing my views with them. Yeah. just nice little intellectual digs, and it's like, all my friends and I up here think you're an idiot. And I said, so all two of you? I don't picture a guy like you having many friends. And it's all because I made a comment about, what do you do in the wintertime in Fargo? Just try to keep your, heart rate up and listen to Slipknot records or something. Slipknot's a fucking douche band, you fucking asshole. I'm like, hey, I just pulled a band out of my head. Sorry,
Speaking of which, but not really, because I don't mean it like a douche nozzle thing, but Slayer announced its farewell tour. No more Slayer.
Yeah. No more lots of bands. No more Rush. No more Tragically Hip. No more Slayer. It's all going away, Stacy.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but the device era is going to kill hard rock bands. It's going to be over.
It's all going to be, I don't even know.
Enjoy Buck Cherry, Foo Fighters. I'm trying to think of a couple other guitar bands. Sales of guitars way down. Rock bands way down.
Yep.
It is the one genre that has suffered from the device era because it's so dependent on that party camaraderie and that, chasing pussy and doing drugs and, just that whole playing in the garage culture that it's disappearing. And every time.
Well, on the 20th, I think it was the 20th, January 20th, was the 35th anniversary of Pyromania.
Yeah.
It was like, enjoy your crushing depression.
Yeah, I have Spotify. I don't know if you use that or iTunes or whatever to listen to music on.
Amazon.
But Spotify does this cool thing that kind of takes algorithms of stuff you've listened to the last couple of weeks and throws bands at you to see if you'll like them. And of course, I have a lot of AC/DC, especially the Mutt Lange era on my playlist. So they sent me this beautiful little band called The Wild out of Canada. And
nice.
It has that melodic twang guitar like Highway to Hell had in Pyromania and Back in Black, just those melodic power chords. And I got a hold of the band and emailed the leader of the band. I'm like, what'd you do, kidnap George Young and Mutt Lange and have him and he goes, wow, man, that's pretty fucking astute. He goes, actually, it's the engineer that worked with them that did our records. I'm like, yeah. I said it had to be somebody connected, because I haven't heard that sound in a really, really long time. And I love this fucking band. These guys look like they're maybe upper 20s, somewhere around there. And they just have that whole Buck Cherry, I don't give a fuck thing. It's like their videos are like fast cars, shit exploding, sucking down Jack Daniels, just the whole reckless thing, and and the guy that's the leader of the band's just a fucking stud, it's like, and I showed him to Lisa and to Christina on the show, and both of them were like, oh, Danger Boy. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. But it's a rare breed, and you wonder if people even like it anymore.
Right.
Because we used to get exposed to two guitars, bass, and drum, bass quartet bands on a regular basis.
Unless it was Morphine.
And
they just broke all the rules.
Morphine?
Yeah.
Not familiar with them.
From the 90s? Lex.
Yeah, not at all. I'll check them out.
Yes, do. That was when I worked at Z93 in Saginaw. Mike Thomas was our general manager, and he had come. He's the only general manager I ever worked with in radio who actually came from programming. He wasn't a bean counter, and he had been, I don't know, the program director of some alternative station like in the late 80s, early 90s, like in Albuquerque. And so he knew all the bands and everything. And Morphine came to Michigan. They were playing in Detroit, and he got the entire staff tickets. He paid for them himself and stuff. And all of us, except for whoever had to be on the air, all went down to Detroit together and watched Morphine. Yeah. That was pretty great.
Hate to break it to you, Stacey, you didn't spend a lot of money, okay? But,
well, I'm sure he didn't, but he still did it himself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a band that we played.
Morphine tickets, $5.
Morphine was good. Look, check it out.
Yeah, okay.
I can't believe actually you don't know who Morphine is.
No,
The singer died, so
must be a shit record because we didn't play it. Hey,
you'll understand why you didn't play it. It's not rock, really.
Yeah.
It was the 90s. Everything was new and different and exciting.
Yeah, I guess. I definitely deviated away from some, knowing they were shit records that weren't going to help us. So, that's just a programming radio thing.
I had this conversation recently with someone. I grew up obviously in Michigan, so I had the Saginaw radio stations. I had Detroit, the riff and stuff.
Yeah, so you're very rock based.
And I just assumed, even growing up and then going into radio here in Michigan, this is just how it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember moving to Florida, which was also when my moving van crossed into the Florida state line, was also the first time I ever visited Florida. And I have never been so disappointed in radio in my life. The music was so different. The attitude was so different. Michigan rocks. Music wise, it was just it was foreign. I couldn't believe how unrocking Florida was compared to Michigan radio and what they played on the air.
Well, by the time I met you, I was no longer the program director at Rock 105.
Correct.
But I was the program director 3 times, and 3 times I took it from worst to first. And the only way that radio station flourished was to rock. And I remember David Moore came in, and we had a really good chat about it. I said, look, you may think the radio station sounds unsafe and, it's a little hard and whatever, but believe me, this town likes that and accepts it. AC/DC broke here in the United States in Jacksonville, Florida, thanks to some guys two stations played it in Jacksonville that were competing against each other. And they put 18,000 people in the Coliseum on the high voltage tour, and I went up the next night to Savannah to see them, and there were 200 people there.
Kiss played Delta College in Saginaw, Michigan. Yeah. And they got booed off the stage because nobody had ever heard. Like 6 months later, they were huge. They were just breaking out, but like they were in full regalia, Kiss outfits, and everyone was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, I mean, it's just I remember hearing AC/DC on the radio, going surfing in the morning, and I'm like, oh my god, I fucking love this. This is awesome, and then so did all my friends and everything, and it's like I got to credit Jamie Brooks, who God rest his soul, he just passed away last year. He and his competitor across the street in Jacksonville, Rich Langlois, both of them loved that record and played it. And Jacksonville, Florida thought that was being played all over the world. They thought that was a huge fucking band. And when they came to town, it sold out. I'll never forget it. It's one of the greatest fucking concerts I've ever seen. But I thought, I wasn't in radio yet, I thought that band was world famous. Right. So when we went up to Savannah the next night, we were expecting thousands and thousands of people, and it was in a club, and there were like 200 people there, and we actually met the band because they just came to a table afterwards. And I asked them about it, and they said, Jacksonville was very good to us. They both two stations play the record. So, so once that news got out that Jacksonville played it and all that, everybody else started playing it, and then AC/DC became AC/DC. But I credit those two guys for having the balls to hear a great album and play it.
Rock on.
And
see, my boss is Z93 did that. That my closest story to that was this was in the 90s. This was when like Nirvana was still with us and stuff. It was just a great. I'm so happy that I was in radio for that.
Yeah, I came back from LA and Rock 105's not playing Nirvana. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
But he didn't have any consultants. Which is just shocking. And everything we played was, from him talking, obviously, the music, you record boys and stuff. And I remember him telling because he'd fall asleep on the couch, typical guy thing in the 90s. And he'd wake up in the middle of the night and the TV would be on. It was like USA, what was that at night? USA at Night or After Dark, whatever that was. And there was a video playing. And he's just kind of waking up and he's staring at the TV and the song is playing. It's a video. And he's like, even in his sleepy stupor, he's like, wow, this kind of rocks. So he waited till it was done. Of course, they show like the record information, the company and stuff at the end of the video. He actually jots this down. The next morning he comes into work. He calls his record rep for that record company. And they're like, really? You're calling me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, no. it's like Collective Soul. Terry drove through Orlando and heard Collective Soul on one of the stations, and he came back and he goes, listen to this song. I'm like, oh my God, that's fucking amazing. It was Shine. And I said, that's a great song. So I put it on, and Schwartz comes on, and all he goes, what is this? I'm like, it's a song I like. Get over it.
Well, see, and we got the song, and so we started playing it, and that is how Z93 in Saginaw, Michigan was one of the first stations in the United States to play a little song called Come Out and Play from The Offspring.
Yep. There you go. I remember.
That's how radio rocks. That is what I miss about radio.
First time I heard Come Out and Play was driving into Dallas when we took our first job here. And nice. I heard it on the alternative station. And I went, oh, okay, that's the alternative station. Then I went over to the classic rock station. I went, oh, that's the classic rock station. Then I went to our station, and we were playing both. And I went, we're so fucked. And that's exactly what happened. Wasn't a place for Q102 to go. They got caught in the middle, and we lasted as long as we could. So
we actually played the Toadies, Possum Kingdom, and we had it in rotation and stuff. And I didn't really, my boss Rick would tell me kind of what was going on and stuff, but I wasn't really paying attention because I just like being on air, and it wasn't doing well for us. It just wasn't doing anything. So he took it off, and it was 6 months later, which I always find this interesting. It was 6 months later we added it again, and then it was huge. I mean, everybody knew. Possum Kingdom. Right. But yeah, it took 6 months for it to catch on.
Rock 105 was so trusted that anytime we played a record like that, the audience accepted it.
Right.
And then it's like when a new company got involved. I mean, David had the station. He didn't fuck it up. He kept it right in the wheelhouse because the ratings were huge. Lex and Terry were huge. Until we got bought by Cox, and then they made him make wholesale changes to it.
Yes, that's when it became all classic rock and no more music halls.
Exactly.
I was there for that. Yes.
Yeah. And it was devastating.
Oh yes.
It's like you have no idea what you've done. And the radio station was so strong. When they took it off life support by doing that, it stayed alive for 15 more years before it died.
Well, Z93, when I was there, Doug Podell, of course, legendary program director
Doug's
of the
awesome.
Riff. And he was asked, Radio and Records had asked him in an interview outside, obviously, of the Riff, what's your favorite radio station? And he said it was Z93. So we were all like, oh, he listens when he's driving up north. That's so exciting.
Yeah, that's cool,
Yeah,
but,
we were quite proud of that.
It may have also meant you're doing it all wrong because we were always bored of our own radio stations. So so there you go. Stacey, great talking music with you as always because you and I both dig it. That's kind of was always our thing. We were working together. Everybody else was oblivious. And of course, we are glad to be back. 3 episodes in on the Threesome Podcast. We'll be back for number 134.
Check out Morphine.
I will. I'll check it out, right. And then if I blow shit on it, don't be unhappy. And we got to wrap things up here. We've already gone over our allotted time, which we promised we wouldn't do. So we're going to wrap it up. We'll see you next time on the Threesome Podcast. See you, Stace.
Bye.